Welcome to Hemp Foundation Talks, where we listen to the heartbeats of the hemp industry and learn the celebrations, challenges, and discoveries from hemp leaders and advocates from around the world. I'm Rebecca, International Business Officer with the Hemp Foundation, and I will be your host. Today's guest is Ianto Morgan Jones. Ianto is currently CEO and founder of Mon Naturals, a family company based in Anglesey, North Wales. Mon Naturals predominantly manufactures and formulates organic skincare products, which are clay mineral and plant-based with added Cannabis Sativa Seed Oil. Ianto served in the military, seeing active duty with the British Parachute Regiment. After leaving the military, he pursued a career in fiber optics and telecommunications, working in London at a variety of locations, including the Cabinet Office, Whitehall, and Admiralty House. Ianto finally came back to Wales to become a mature student at Bangor University, where he originally studied history and archaeology, then reverted to science so as to complete a thesis on Elawan, his family's ancient Welsh 300-year-old balm and cortisol. He then facilitated a smart expertise project with the Welsh government and Bangor University. Welcome, Ianto. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. And would love to learn more about that rich family history and tell us a little bit more about Elawan.
Okay, so Elawan is a traditional Welsh balm that was formulated by my family. We've traced it back about 4 generations, maybe 5, because each great-great-grandparent has had the history passed down from a previous great-great-great-grandparent.
Wow.
So it's word of mouth through a family lineage, really. And then the formulation has always been used locally. So obviously in the olden times, in the 1800s, there wouldn't have been hospitals or doctors as we know now. It would have been more the traditional way where a certain person in a certain village could maybe help with a certain thing. Mm-hmm. And I think my family traditionally helped people with burns and wounds, as well as other herbal formulations that I'm aware of, but I haven't really concentrated on. So the main one that I was introduced to as a child and taught how to collect and use and to formulate was the slates and the animal oil, and then you create Elawan, which is basically antifungal, antiviral, anti-inflammatory. It's amazing, really, but we were still looking for the efficacy, because when you introduce an old product like this or an old formulation into modern times, you have to prove its efficacy, obviously, and this takes time, and we use academic partners and the government and whatever resources we can, really, to promote the cream and things. Mm-hmm. So that I was taught at 6 years of age how to make it, and you know, it wasn't part of my life really until my father went ill with cancer. And when we were home, and you know, I gave up everything to go and look after him before he passed away. So we spent a lot of time rekindling our relationship and getting to know each other again. And he basically said, well, this cream's in the family, mm-hmm. and it's down to you to do something, because the rest of the family weren't really that good at English. You're the one that can speak English the best, because I do come from a traditionally Welsh only family. So yeah, and that's set me on a journey, really, to try and bring this and make it available to everybody on the planet, really, and that's what he wanted. So
wow, that's amazing. So you've taken this old tradition and now you're trying to bring it into the modern space. And tell me more a little bit about, because now you've even added to it. So what made you decide to add cannabis into your formula? Tell me a little bit more about your journey into utilizing hemp.
Okay, so I already knew the benefits of hemp and cannabis, CBD and THC. I've been around that for many years, 20 odd years, and not just the recreational side, but I'm aware of the medical side of it. There are growers here who've been doing it for 20, 30 years that help people with cancer in the community. So I know the serious side of of cannabis as well, and I know how it has helped on people's skin. It's helped with many different things that I'm aware of, and I wanted to try and utilize that really. So the problem with the initial cream was because it had animal oil in it, and I'm a vegetarian, ethically, I understood why the old ancient people used it, because they didn't waste any part of the animal. They utilized every single part of the animal. So when you've got a piece of fat off an animal that it doesn't get eaten, it's going to be incinerated or it goes to the landfill. So we use that waste fat and we turn it into an organic oil. Now that organic oil is anti-inflammatory. So when the academics challenged me on the efficacy of the animal oil, when they challenged me on the efficacy of the animal oil, I decided that I was going to do a plant-based version. Now, they did say that this could only be done with synthetic ingredients. Now, I decided to try and replicate the animal oil using natural chemical compounds. So this was more of a challenge, because trying to match nature with nature can be quite difficult, really, because nature doesn't really do replicates. It does some things that are very similar. So the challenge then was, for 18 months then, was to bring out a vegan plant-based alternative to the animal oil. And I did this using the fatty acid index. I needed to make it cost effective, so as little ingredients as possible, all plant-based. And then we matched all the compounds, vitamins, minerals, everything you can think of. And the main goal was to try and replicate the anti-inflammatory capability. Now, I didn't know the exact mechanism. I just worked out how the mechanism worked, and I presumed if you duplicated it, you'll get the same results. Unfortunately, it worked out for me. So now we have a vegan plant-based balm with Cannabis Sativa Seed Oil, cosmetically certified, and has now helped thousands and thousands of people with eczema, psoriasis, wounds, burns, dermatitis. And this is since the launch in 2019.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so we have the old one, which works on all these skin conditions, and we have a new one. So you're catering for everybody in society, really.
So tell me a little bit more about the challenges. I know, it's hard in this industry to be able to, you have to be very careful in your words and how you say that, something is effective in healing, a certain ailment and stuff. So, and I know recently you had just mentioned that you got banned, for sharing a case study. So tell me more a little bit what are some of the challenges and how do you navigate them?
Well, one challenge that has been made really clearly this week is censorship. Now, we are taught as part of university and the BioAccelerate, we have people from the BBC, we have people from PR, we have people from marketing, sales, and these are experts in the UK and in Europe. I mean, the highest possible, and they teach us. So I've been taught over the last month how to use the marketing and to avoid any censorship and to keep to the guidelines. Now, I keep all my posts to the guidelines, and they're to government policy. So the government policy states that you can use endorsements, testimonials, and case studies. Unfortunately, LinkedIn, Facebook, other platforms, they have what they call community standards. Now, community standards are not government guidelines. They are guidelines specifically for that company. So they can decide to have a different rule to an official rule.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is where society is at the moment, when you've got government policies and guidelines being completely ignored by potentially a company, because that's all LinkedIn is. It's a company which offers a service. It's not even a content provider, really. I'm the content provider.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they're putting community standards on me. And then I ask them for what community standard I've broken, and they can't tell me. So we know that hemp is still censored. And, you know, our way as a small company to stay within the rules is to use case studies and testimonials and endorsements to promote our work.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are not, until we get the academic research behind us to get the medical validations for the claims, we have to be patient, which can be infuriating for the customer, because the customer is looking at a product and then they message me and go, okay, we see the product, what does it do?
Right.
But legally, I can't say, well, yeah, I've got thousands and thousands of people that have said that this works on psoriasis, yet I can't put that in the post, but I can get the actual customer to put it in the post.
Mm-hmm.
But at the moment now, community standards are even going against that.
Right.
And I guess this is universal through the industry. I don't think I'm the only one that's suffering with this.
Right.
Because I see other people that are banned as well. So it just goes to show, you know, there is censorship now when it comes to natural healing herbs and these, you know, these natural ingredients, I guess.
Right. So, but it is important, right, too, when using natural ingredients to have the right formulations, right? And I think we touched on this before, because sometimes things in nature out of balance can have not the effect that we want, right? But you guys have that rich history going back for centuries that you've, you know, found that balance, right? You know, in using natural products. And it's very interesting to me how, and I'm wondering how, when you've adapted now something new into your formulations, and have you seen even better results with adding the cannabis, or anything different that adds to the product?
Well, we had some issues with the original one. So stability at warm sort of room temperature was a big problem, because if the room was too warm, the original formulation, which was the slate and the animal, would become very runny. So it made it difficult for people to apply to the skin, and it would be very messy, and it would drip and all these other things. So basically, when we formulated the vegan plant-based, we took all them into consideration. So that one is far more stable at room temperature. It becomes a lot harder. And we've also added a fragrance to it as well. So it's a lot nicer for the consumer when you open it. It looks nicer. So we've addressed a lot of the other issues that we had. But on the level of its performance, I would say that we've managed to mimic exactly the anti-inflammatory capability. I still don't know how we managed that completely yet. I really don't, because, you know, this is very difficult to mimic nature. You know, I studied it for 18 months and looked at every angle I possibly could. And then, you know, proof's in the pudding. The cream now, you know, we're up for 4 awards in this year's World Cbd Awards. Best European retailer, best industry newcomer, best tincture, best topical.
Wow.
You know, so it's not bad since we launched in 2018, and considering we've had 2 years of lockdown to deal with as well.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, you know, things are back on track now. We're filming for the BBC tomorrow. Again, trying to bring awareness to hemp in Wales. So we're working with a doctor in Aberystwyth University, so we're going to be filming tomorrow there, and just letting people know that Wales is active with hemp, and we would like to use it as an agricultural crop. We would like to introduce it as medicine, as sustainable, you know, to bring a lot of applications and products to Wales.
Mm-hmm.
So all angles of hemp, really, that's what we're trying to work with, you know, and obviously the topical is the main one that we're working with at the moment.
Amazing. So what changes need to happen to be able to open up the industry more in Wales, as far as any policies or anything? What is your purpose that you guys are advocating for?
Education. The doctors need to be educated.
Mm-hmm.
People in institutions need to be educated. People in government departments need to be educated. The police need to be educated. The court system needs to be educated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these people, there's a stigma, and the stigma is wrong. That goes back to the Prohibition days.
Right.
And that stigma, unfortunately, is still hanging over the industry slightly. It's not as bad as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because now CBD has made it more mainstream. And, you know, you've got to say thank you to Holden Barrett, really, in the UK, for bringing it onto the high street. You know, it's not the full strength that I'd like with the THC in it. That's something that we need to work on, the THC level, the legal THC level. But yeah, education's a big one. And I think legislation, you know, legislation needs to be looked at, really, to make it a lot more easier for the farmer, because in Italy now they're paying farmers a certain amount per acre to grow it, and then you get to keep your profit from the acre. So there's initiatives there for the farmers in Italy to start growing hemp everywhere.
Amazing.
So that is going to help, you know, instead of the government putting blocks in the way or making it difficult, why don't they make it easy, and they try and encourage more people to do it? Before long, you've got a brand new industry in your country which caters for the people in your country, which helps your soil, helps your air, helps your farmers, helps your community. It goes on and on and on, really. It's just a massive chain that all links together in a circular way that, you know, benefits each other. And then what surplus you've got then as a nation, you can sell.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. It's not right. The economics is not rocket. It's not rocket, really, is it? You know, but again, it's education, because it's a funny topic. I bring it up with some of my colleagues in the government, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know," you know, because they don't know about it. That's all it is. As soon as you educate them and they know how many applications, the practicality of it, they're like, "Wow, okay, why is this not everywhere?"
Yeah,
exactly.
So you're working with both the Welsh government and the Bangor University to bring this education to the forefront in many different aspects of the community, so that it can continue to grow. Yes,
I've done two presentations now in two different universities. One was in front of Horizon 2020, which is a European initiative to look at sustainable alternative solutions for Europe and the UK, and how to implement them, and how to get the supply chain in place, and to get the whole logistics in place, really. So I've done them presentations. I use different schools from a particular university, product development or IT. It doesn't really matter if it's computer science. All I want is to see, I always look to see if the students are aware to start with, and then obviously they're going to learn then during the day, during the workshop, about hemp. Then we do a presentation then. And the last one we did was for Climathon. So we were trying to find solutions to the climate. To me, it's the #1 plant on the planet that can help climate change. And you can't have a conversation about climate change really without bringing hemp into the conversation. Because you don't know the subject holistically enough, really. So when I see people who are reluctant to talk about hemp and climate, I just think, well, you're not completely into the subject. You know, if you're really for real about that subject, then everything comes to the table, doesn't it? You know, we don't pick and choose. Oh no, that one's, you know, no, we're talking about climate. So these are the main things. Let's have a look and let's see how they're going to work together, you know?
Right. So going from utilizing hemp to your cream, which is an amazing thing, to utilizing the plant on a larger scale to help these issues in our climate change and stuff. What do you envision how in your area that you can utilize the plant for those purposes?
Right. Well, I don't believe in, I think that when we talk about farming, I think we need to be very careful how we use that word, because we don't want hemp turning into a scenario where you've got 20,000 pigs in one big farm unit, and these pigs, they've got no quality of life. They don't move for the whole of their life. They're just in one place, not allowed out. Their cortisol levels are up by 10%, which causes huge issues with the animal.
Right.
They're getting calcium injections. They're getting, because they're not grass fed, you know, they're getting vitamin D injections because they're not in the sun. And it just goes on and on. You know, so when we look at farming, I believe that we need to control. And so sometimes centralizing things on too big a scale can take it away from the community. So yes, scaling up, and we want big players involved, but it still needs to be kept to a community level, because then you understand the supply chain, the money stays in the community, it's very transparent. You know your skills then in the community, you know the apprenticeships, you know which farms are working together, you know what soils, you know how the soil is in the area. So you're able to manage it as a community, and then you set up the next one in the community. So like somewhere like Wales, so you had 8 of them in Wales, and then you just have, you don't have to have a huge governing body looking after them, because they should be able to look after themselves separately.
Right.
But you might have something above them that just makes sure that they do work together, so that they all integrally then work together, which then helps Wales as one. You know, I'm still working on this. There's people in Canada who are working on this. This is new. These are the values and the ethics that we need to keep as the industry grows potentially, isn't it? You know, it still needs to be manageable, and it still needs to be transparent, and you need to keep to the values of what you're trying to do, really.
Right. Wow. Thank you so much, Ianto. I appreciate your vision and the efforts that you're making to help solve some of these problems on a larger scale. I really appreciate the time that you've taken to share that, and wish you the best as you continue. And we want to keep in touch and you know, see how things are going in your part of the world and how that's having an impact on others. You're really an inspiration in what you're doing. And thank you for your time and being on this show.
No, you're welcome. And thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Hemp Foundation Talks. Hemp Foundation is a nonprofit social enterprise on a mission to provide solutions for our current ecological crisis. Hemp Foundation and their brand Uki has created a value chain from village farms to the marketplace, utilizing the many benefits of hemp to overcome deforestation, fight plastic pollution, and support regenerative practices to heal our earth. The foundation supports over 250 small village farmers in the Indian Himalayan region. In addition, they employ widows and women in the production of over 500 hemp products for the marketplace. From clothing to food to hemp bags, a large range of textiles, embroidered fabrics, home goods, and even hemp bioplastic. To learn more, visit hempfoundation.net.